Hey everybody, welcome to Jacob's Quest, and today I've just finished watching episode 5 of Andor. And yeah, this one really felt like the middle chapter of a 3-episode arc, which is exactly how they described this all being structured, so the first episode where, Andor is introduced to this group of rebels, they got a mission, he's kind of left there, and now this episode, it's really, at least Andor's plot, it's really all about him getting to know these rebels and getting to know what the bigger plan is and how they don't all trust each other, they don't all have the same information, and Andor, ends up revealing not entirely everything about himself, but he does end up revealing, like, okay, I was paid to be here, I'm here, yeah, sure, I believe in the cause, but this is a huge risk, so yeah, I'm getting paid, because they end up finding his Kyber crystal, right? And so he has to explain away, like, how, why does a thief who has, like, nothing on his back suddenly have this crazy expensive, this is crazy expensive crystal here, right? So, in kind of a fun way, this is really just, it's a vibe, you know what I mean? And look, I'm not going to sit here and say that I actually care about all of these different rebel characters. Some of them didn't really get any kind of screen time at all, while others we actually spent a significant amount with. There's, like, the main guy who distrusts him. He was, like, searching through his gear. He's constantly like, oh, I'm just gonna move your stuff here. And Andor, of course, has to be like, nah, don't touch that, don't touch that, don't touch me, leave me alone. So this whole episode was a lot of, like, distrust happening, but he gives this big reveal because he doesn't want to, like, have to watch over his shoulder right before the big mission, which is, it's obviously going to happen next episode, the big mission. So this episode, it just felt like a big middle chapter. It feels like we still haven't reached the climax of, like, this mission and how everything's going to go wrong, and how I'm sure that, at least half of this crew, if not all of them, are going to end up dead next episode, So I think it's one of those things where it's like, I'm not really invested in these other rebel characters. I mean, a lot of the stuff they say is interesting. For example, the younger kid who was building the models while they're, like, demonstrating what the plan is, he's writing the whole manifesto, and he's got, like, this whole speech that he gives to Andor, and it's fascinating stuff. I wrote some of it down about how, like, it's easier to hide behind 40 atrocities than a single incident, and he's talking about, like, the Imperial thought machine, and it's, like, fascinating stuff, So, like, again, Andor continues to be the most politically driven Star Wars thing we've probably ever had, which it makes sense, right? These people, these rebels, they're not being paid like Andor is, These people are doing it because they believe in the cause, right? So just real interesting stuff. The other great thing about this episode is we got a little bit of everyone. They didn't just stick with Andor. They didn't just stick with that corporate guy. Look, and still, there's so many shows happening right now. It's hard to remember everyone's name. So the corporate police guy who had to go home to his mom because he got fired. So let's go to him. So really, this entire episode just continues to drag this guy down, and I don't know if he's, like, getting further and further into his hatred, and he's gonna like just chase after Andor and blame everything on him, because really, this whole episode is about, like, his mom kind of just saying, like, oh man, wish I could have seen you when you were, doing good in life, and now here you are living in my house again. And he's like, Mom, you could have visited any time. And she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go talk to your uncle, maybe he can give you a job, and it's like, jeez, man, this guy, like, I feel bad, but at the same time, at the end of his little arc this episode, he takes out a hologram of Andor, and he's, like, staring at it, and it's like, oh, he blames all of this on Cassian, which I guess is true, right? Like, Cassian escaping is what caused all of this to happen, but it is like, oh man, is he gonna kind of go crazy and just, like, obsess over catching Cassian? Maybe, but he doesn't have any authority right now. He can't really, like, do anything, so I have to imagine he's going to try to join the Imperial Navy or something, right? I don't know where they're taking his character, or maybe he's gonna pretend to be a rebel only to turn on them and just, like, go after Cassian without any other structure backing him up. He's just going to do it on his own. Who knows exactly where this is going, but it continues to be fascinating because you can just see how like just down in the dumps this guy is, you know, like his mom is just not letting up, you know. Jeez, I feel bad, but also I suspect that he's gonna become like a real bad guy, you know. Let's see. Oh, and then we get a little bit more of the ISB, right? You know, and basically it's just, you know, the blonde lady. She, again, names not so great with the names. But you know, she continues to like put pieces together. She mentions all these different planets, Hosnium Prime and Jakku, and you know, so we get some good name drops there. But talks about how like this incident happened here and the sad incident happened here, and her little partner in crime who's working at the ISB, he's like encouraging her and just being like, yeah, don't. I know that they told you to drop it. I know that they told you not to, like, you know, don't investigate this, but you're onto something. You're totally onto something. And she's like, yeah, this is how I would do it. I would spread out these little rebel cells. I would, you know, like she said, don't hop the same fence twice, right? So she's definitely putting together the larger picture of like, okay, it's all organized by looking random, basically, you know, which, you know, if you've seen Rebels, it kind of all makes a lot more sense now of how, like, you know, Rebels, we were following Phoenix Squadron, you know, like this tiny little rebel cell on Lothal, and then, you know, one day it turns out it's like, oh, there's a whole bunch of rebels, and even Zeb would ask Ezra real quick, like, did you know we were part of a cell? Like, did you know that, you know, like as far as he knew, this was it, like just the 5 people here, you know, so even among the cells, there, you know, maybe one of them even knows that they're part of a larger organization, which kind of explains, what's her name, Vel, I think that's what they said her name is. You know, Vel's connection to Luthen is probably like, she's the only one in that group that knows they're part of a larger organization, maybe, you know? Or at least, like, the larger structure of it. Speaking of Luthen, we do see him only a little bit at the end, where he's listening on his super secret radio signal, whatever, right, device, and he's not catching anything, and I don't know if this is supposed to be his wife or is just his partner in crime. I don't know. They're not entirely clear, but you know, they're closing up shop in the antique shop, and he's like, oh, I haven't heard anything from them, and she's like, look, they're either everything's gonna be fine or it's not. Vel is the only one that comes back, or is the only one that connects back to us. And you know, again, that kind of like, is Vel his daughter? Like a lot of people speculated that like they kind of have like a father-daughter type relationship, and they said they connect back to him. So like, if that's his daughter, that makes a lot of sense. That like, oh hey, that's your daughter. Like, what was she doing being a rebel? You know. But then he brings up how Andor also connects back because he wasn't as careful, and I'm wondering what he means by that. Like what exactly, you know, like what does Andor have that would lead like directly back to him? Is it the Kyber crystal? You know what I mean? Like I'm wondering what exactly he means by that. He wasn't as careful because he wanted this to happen. So, you know, if anything, this still reinforces that like he's been watching Andor for a while, and he really wanted Cassian to join, you know, one of his little rebel cells. Now, why? I don't know. When did he hear about Cassian in the first place? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like when did all this happen? When did his interest in Cassian start? Still a lot of questions there on Luthen's side of things. We also get a lot of Mon Mothma in this one, which is good because I like seeing, you know, Coruscant, and just whenever we're following Mon Mothma, it's like we never really get to see a day in the life of high society Coruscant, right? Like whenever we're following Padme in the prequels, it's always like during these really important things that are happening in the galaxy. It's not like a normal day, you know. So yeah, Mon Mothma's just sitting at home with her husband, and we actually do see her daughter. There was a lot of like speculation about her daughter, but no, her daughter is a completely new character. And funny enough, her daughter's going through like the rebellious teenage stage, which is kind of funny because her mom's Mon Mothma, so rebellious. Kind of, anyways. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of tension there where the daughter's not listening to her at all, not doing anything she says, and then she's, you know, Mon Mothma looks at her husband like, are you enjoying this? Are you gonna say something? Which, of course, he does not. Like, they do not seem to have a good relationship at all. In fact, I think it was put out in one of the interviews that Mon Mothma and her husband had, like, an arranged marriage type thing on Chandrilla, like, where they're from. So I guess that's kind of why they don't seem to... they don't seem to have, like, much of a romantic relationship, Like, it was just kind of an arranged thing, and they have a daughter now. I don't know. Interesting. And it's kind of unclear how aware of anything her husband is. I'm wondering if it's going to be revealed that, like, oh, yeah, the husband knows everything, and he's going to end up betraying her or something. Kind of unclear. But, yeah, they get ready for some kind of event that they're going to, and I don't think anything real significant happens on this front, as far as I'm aware, but they kind of just show how, like, the husband keeps forgetting what the driver's name is, and the husband just doesn't care at all, really. So there's just kind of a running joke about, like, everyone hates the husband. And yeah, that's really all that happens in this episode, so, like, everyone just kind of, we're taking steps. This is definitely, like, the middle chapter of this 3-episode arc, and so next episode the mission's going to be completed, and and then after that we'll move on to whatever the next mission is, I guess. But yeah, obviously still a whole lot of questions, still, like, what is Luthen's role here? Like, what's his relationship with everyone? How did all this start? He's kind of the middleman between Mon Mothma, who's getting funding somehow, and then he's like the recruiter of the agents, you know what I mean? But, obviously not all of them, because a lot of them don't even know about Luthen. So, like, what exactly is the structure here? How's all this put together? Very, very curious. But, yeah, lots of Easter eggs in this one. One of the guys had, like, tattoos, and they mentioned a bunch of different locations. So, like, I'm sure people are already, doing breakdown videos of, like, here's how this happened, and here's what this is, yeah, I'm still enjoying the show. It's definitely still a different vibe. It's not like, this was not like the big Easter egg episode like last one was. We do go back to that antique shop for a second, and we see, like, the same stuff in the background. But my thing is, like, this show, it's not about the Easter eggs. So, like, last episode, having that scene in that store, and, like, everyone's, of course it was really cool to catch all that stuff, but, like, this one is going back to, like, yeah, but this is a politically centric rebel spy thriller type show, like, who can trust who's doing what, so it's just, it's got its own vibe, it doesn't feel like any other Star Wars that we've had before, but I'm still really enjoying it, I think it is also one of the shows that, like, you kind of wish that they could put out maybe 2 or 3 episodes at a time. Like, what if instead of just putting out the one episode, they had done, 3-episode arcs and just released the whole arc, so, like, you get 3 this week and you get 3 next week, because it is kind of like, okay, this was the middle chapter, and we gotta wait a whole week before we get to the end of this mission, so it's like, man. But I'm sure, like, once you're able to just watch it all, it's gonna, like, flow a lot better, So, anyways, let me know what you guys think about Andor episode 5, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.